It's no secret that Africa is home to some of the poorest countries in the world, home to countries that don't even have functioning water sewage systems. And yet, Africa is also the richest continent in terms of natural minerals and resources. Today, I'm going to explain exactly how Africa came to the point of being the poorest country in the country of being. Now I sound like these Americans who know nothing about the world and they say that Africa is a country. But today I'm going to explain how Africa became the poorest continent in the world. And before I go further in this video, I want to preface that this video is going to be purely individualistic, something that Africans can claim for themselves. If you don't know, I grew up in Zimbabwe, so I'm not talking as an outsider. I'm talking as someone who has lived the experience being in Africa. Right, so before I go on further, no, I'm not going to be talking about, the white man came and enslaved us. I'm not going to be talking about neo-colonization, of which those two things are big topics. Today, I'm going to be targeting this topic from purely a mental and metaphysical approach, one in which if you apply these things, you will be able to better your life. See, the purpose of this channel is to help people remove limiting blocks that have been blocking the amount of revenue or the performance that they're having in their careers, their businesses, for athletes in their sports, right? And this video is going to be a bit off brand. Like, why am I talking about how Africa became the poorest country? Because these are universal principles that you are applying to your life right now, perhaps in the wrong way, the same way that Africans have been doing for as long as I know. The point is, this isn't going to be your typical video where I'll tell you exactly how it's affecting your business, but you will be able to get the principles from this video and apply them to your life, whether it be in business, whether it's even with your relationship with your girl, with your guy, whatever it may be. But that's what we're going to tackle today. So the first and perhaps the most important thing in this video, and if you understand what I'm saying, you actually don't need to watch the rest of the video. I want you to understand that the only difference between two people is their state of consciousness. And I'll explain what your state of consciousness is later on in this video. Right? If the only difference between two people is a state of consciousness, then the only difference between one country and another country is the average person in that country's state of consciousness. Now, if you go further up the ladder, the only difference between one continent and another continent will now be the average person in that continent's state of consciousness. So, the only difference between Africa and Europe and North America, South America, Australasia, Oceania, forgive me, and Asia is simply a state of consciousness. See, last year I had the pleasure of traveling to France and Poland, and while I was out there, I realized that human beings are all the same. Whether you speak French, whether you speak Shona, whether you speak Ndebele, whether you speak Zulu, we are all the same. The only difference between us is our state of consciousness. While I was there talking to various Frenchmen, even people who came from, I can't remember, it was a Middle Eastern country, I think it was Saudi Arabia, I just talked to him. And I realized that the only difference between me and him, fundamentally, is our state of consciousness. That has led to the lives that we've lived, the opportunities we've had, and the results that we've gotten from the opportunities that we've had. See, a lot of the times people like to focus on what is going on in this physical plane because that is all they can see. Let me plug in my laptop because it's going to start lagging if I don't do it. So forgive me for pausing this. But anyways, okay. We're back. A lot of the times people focus purely on what they can see in the physical plane. So people look at Africa and they look at Europe. They see the lack of resources, apparently. In Africa, they see the lack of opportunities, the poor job markets, the nepotism, the corruption. And then they see what appears to be more democratic countries, socialist, whatever, just functioning better than the countries in Africa. And they say that is the reason why Africa is in the position that it's in, because there is an absence of opportunities that exist in Europe as compared to the ones that exist in Africa. Right? So we attach so much importance to the physical plane, not knowing that the physical plane is literally an effect of the mental plane. If Africans were to change the mentality, if they were to change their state of consciousness, Africa would invariably change. And Now that you're sitting here, you're thinking, okay, the state of consciousness is a problem of Africa. So how did this happen? And don't worry, I'm going to explain all of this. You're going to get some serious eats. So essentially, the fundamental question that you should be asking yourself now is what led to this change in state of consciousness? Now, at this point in the video, I'm actually going to touch on the topics that I said I wasn't going to touch upon, such as colonialization. I think I said colonization. They were colonized, colonial. Anyways, colonization, right? And neo-colonization. So it's no secret that centuries ago, Europeans, whatever, North Americans, actually North America didn't really do anything to Africa, but the point is Europeans came to Africa. They desired to have control of our resources, and some argue that we gave them our resources because we had no education of what those resources were worth. But how it happened, it doesn't matter. So they came here, they wanted control. They wanted to control us so that they could extract the most from us. So at that time, the control was purely by means that you can see in the physical plane. So they would have better weaponry. If you veered away from what they expected from you, you get punished, you get put in jail, you get beaten by police officers. They moved all the black people, all the indigenous people to the areas where the soil wasn't arid, or actually arid soils, where it was hard to get anything from the crop. You were in the outskirts of the country. He had very little access to all the meaningful things. Like the people who belonged in the country, the indigenous people, were pushed to the worst areas of the country, right? So that was what was done. And now the war is mental. And as Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, I'm going to butcher this quote, it's not going to be word for word, but the best way to fight a war is in a way in which your opponent doesn't realize that they are fighting a war. And that is exactly what has happened with Africa, because we know that, okay, we were colonized. We know that, okay, these guys that came here, they built their heaven and told us that our heaven was in the sky, right? They built their heaven on our land while telling us that our heaven was in the sky. And this isn't me critiquing religion. I'm actually Christian, by the way. But that is one thing I hate, that Africans have accepted that, oh no, my heaven is in the sky. Whereas there are other people who are exactly like us, who have built their heaven on our lands. As I was saying, Sun Tzu said the best way to fight a war is in a manner in which your opponent doesn't realize that they are fighting a war. And that is exactly what has happened. We are no longer fighting a physical war of, oh, there are settlers here, they have come, they've colonized our land, they have police officers who are policing their way, brutally killing our people, pushing us to the outskirts of the country. Now it is simply a mental war and a spiritual war. They have convinced us of the same things that they wanted to achieve when they were using physical means, but by doing mental means. Because if you understood what I was saying earlier, that the only difference between an African and a European, the only difference between you and the person that you want to be is your state of consciousness, you will understand that your state of consciousness literally leads to the life that you are living. So if you can control someone's state of consciousness and get it into the state that you want it to be, you can ultimately control their life. And that is exactly what has happened. Instead of using the physical means, instead of making it blatantly obvious that we were colonized, they went back. They were like, here's your independence. They weren't like, here's, a lot of the countries fought for the independence. But they were like, calm. Have your independence, niggas. It's calm. You're free. Without us realizing that we weren't free. That they altered our state of consciousness through various beliefs that made us into what we are today. And before I go on further, I'm actually going to explain what your state of consciousness is. Your state of consciousness is essentially the environment in your mind, right? And that environment in your mind, everything that you do in life flows out of that environment in your mind. And there are 7 keys to your state of consciousness: attention, beliefs, convictions, perceptions, expectations, reactions, and emotionally charged thoughts. And your state of consciousness is essentially the average of those 7 keys. So when you look at that list, it's an extensive of beliefs, perceptions, expectations, all of those things. You will see that, okay, if you were to if one was able to control all 7 of these things, it is totally feasible, whether you believe in reality creation or not, whether you believe in the mind's role in creating the lives that we live or not. If one was able to influence all 7 of those, it would have a drastic effect on the influencee's life, the person who was influenced life. Right. So these people, they realize that we don't need to control them physically. We don't need to go there and occupy their land using our militaries and enforcing the rules that we want. We just need to be able to control their minds. We just need to be able to alter their states of consciousness. And once we do that, we can control them. That is essentially what has happened in Africa. That is why we are in the position that we're in. And relax, like, I'm only about 10 minutes into this video. I'm going to go more in depth on the intrinsic nature on why we are poorer than Europeans. Like, this is going to be a crazy video. I even have notes on this idea. I don't typically have notes, but today I have notes because there's quite literally nothing that I want to miss out. The groundwork for everything that I'm going to explain further is that if one can control your state of consciousness, they can indirectly control your reality. So they're still in charge of you. I can't remember which religion it is or which philosophy it is, but it says one who can make you angry is your master. Likewise, one who can control your state of consciousness is quite literally your master. Not just master of you, but master of your reality. Damn, I think it's butchering. But I'm going to go into some of the beliefs that have become instilled in Africans and have resulted in us being poor. So, the very first thing that I mentioned earlier was we were pushed to the outskirts of the place. All the best suburbs, places with the best soil for agriculture, prime real estate places, they were given to the people who came to colonize the lands. And the people who look like you and I, they probably aren't black. But if you are, pretend you're African. Right? Like I said, all these things can be applied to other areas in your life. So the people who are Africans, who look like Africans, they went to the bad places. And that was an emotionally charging experience. What you need to understand is that emotion is the true language of the subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the powerhouse of your life. Your life flows out of your subconscious mind. Your state of consciousness that I was talking about comes from your subconscious mind. It literally rests in your subconscious mind. So you being, or your ancestors being pushed to the worst places in the country, it was an emotionally charging experience because they had previously built their lives. All they had known was being in a certain area, being the top dogs in the country, just being equal to everyone, right? And they were pushed to the worst parts of the country. Now, that experience was emotionally charging, and what they got from that experience subconsciously, is the white people are better than us. Regardless of whether you want to admit it or not, you're like, the white people are better than us. Oh, I'm black, I don't deserve to live in the best place. Oh, this restaurant is too fancy. Like, why am I here? I don't belong to be here. There's no one here that looks like me. In fact, we were all pushed away forcefully. Like, we don't belong here. And logically speaking, you were like, no, we belong here. We've been living here for years. But your subconscious mind isn't logical. It's irrational. It is programmed by emotion. And if you are a fairly educated man or woman or of a certain age, you will realize that there's nothing rational about emotions. You can drop your ice cream and be depressed for the next 7 days because, like, damn, I was looking forward to that ice cream. Now you can't get out of bed. It's crazy what emotions do, right? So it was an emotionally charging experience, and since emotion is the true language of the subconscious mind, your mind was now programmed through that experience. Your mind accepted that experience as true. See, there are no truths in your reality, only what the subconscious mind has accepted as true. What the subconscious mind has accepted as true are things that it has emotionally experienced, not things that you consciously know are true, not things that you consciously know, okay, this makes sense, like, oh, I'm equal to this person, I was made by the same God, right? The same God that is allowing them to do these things is the same God for me, so it means that the problem is with me, not with my God, right? So we had emotionally charged ourselves, or we experienced those things to the point where they became emotionally charging, where it programmed our subconscious mind. So now, at this point, we believe that, people like us. I don't like saying black people because they're like, not all Africans are black. See, I'm from sub-Saharan Africa, so all the Africans that I see are quite literally black. But as you go higher up, you're not necessarily black, but you are melanated. So anyways, the highly melanated people, just what, okay, the people with as much melanin as us, we don't belong in these areas. The good things aren't for us. We belong in these areas, and it's as shown by how we've been treated. So that has been accepted as a truth, right? And like I said, there are no truths in reality other than what your subconscious mind is true, as accepted as true. Now, once it has been accepted as true, your subconscious mind will manifest that into your reality. So what essentially happened is now you are living a life where, or the collective Africans are living a life where the good things aren't for them, the good business deals aren't for them, the good schools aren't for them. That thing about schools is even crazy. Another thing that this has led to is the pedestalization of white people, or of whoever came to colonize that place. Because logically speaking, if you see a certain group of people always having the good things, always staying in the good places, always experiencing the luxuries of life, being to the best restaurants, 5-star, having the most successful business in the country, right? Being the leaders, you are subconsciously, whether you like it or not, going to begin to put them on a pedestal. Right? You will say that, oh, white people are better than me. It's not only that I don't deserve the good things, it's also that those people are better than me. Right? And a weird way that this is manifested and still actually happens in this day and age is that, let's say I went to a private school in Zimbabwe, and the way people judged how good a school was in Zimbabwe, a country that is predominantly black, is how many white people went to that school. Right? I went to a school called St. John's College, and our rivals, like, let's say if you watch football, there's the Manchester derby, so there's going to be Manchester and Man City, and that's like the biggest game. So whenever we played school sports, our biggest game, our derby, was playing against a school called St. George's College, right? So whenever we would have these games, we'd have war cries, we'd just be singing, cheering the team on, essentially like the chants that you see in these sports stadiums. And a lot of the times, like sports fans do, we started going at each other, right? And one of the things that we used to say to St. George's to indicate that we were better than them, we'd be like, where's your white on? On is essentially like person, guy. So where's your white on? Where's your white on? But we didn't say white, we said twy. Twy is just slang for white. So it was essentially, where's your twy on? Where's your twy on? And we were just essentially saying we're better than you because we have more white people than you, because my school was probably about 30% of our students were white. And we had about 600 students, so let's say 200 white students. Whereas St. George, that had 1,000 niggas, quite literally 1,000 niggas. Indians as well, few Asians. Well, Indians are Asians, but you get what I mean. Yeah, so it led to the pedestalization of white people on top of not believing that you deserve more things. So now, when you look at yourself, or when you ask the question, why are Africans poorer, which is what I'm answering in this video, you begin to see that, let's say you are given an opportunity, there's a job here, and there's a white person that you're going up against. There are white people in the firm, and you know there's a white person that can actually do that job. They want the job. And let's say if somehow you've got the job, but subconsciously you believe you're not deserving of good things, so why would you be deserving of a good job, right? You believe that white people are better than you, so why would you believe that you can do this job better than a white person? And you believe this on subconscious levels. And what you need to understand is, when your beliefs on a subconscious level contradict what you want to believe on a conscious level, or what you think you believe consciously, you are always going to subconsciously sabotage that which you were doing. So a lot of the times where people say, oh no, Africans, it's just hard for us, we are the cursed race, like nothing works for us, we were constructing our own demise through subconscious sabotaging. And the thing is, we weren't aware of this, so we ended up blaming it on luck. It's just how things are, the world is against us. we have to work twice as hard as others to get the same result. And that literally just comes from thinking that you are less than the other people, because there's no reason why you would need to work twice as hard as someone to get the same result as them if you weren't less than them. I need you to realize the reality of life. The more you are as a person, the less you have to do. The less you are as a person, the more you have to do. And the easiest way to illustrate this is, let's say, right, someone is selling you a product, right? They have 10,000 testimonials, all of them like 100% testimonial rate. They have gotten the results that you are looking for. And now there's someone else who has one testimonial, right? Objectively speaking, that person in a business sense is more. The person with 10,000 testimonials, objectively speaking, is more than the person who has one testimonial. So they have to do less to convince you. They just have to say, oh, look, here are the results, whatever. But the person with one testimonial is telling you like, okay, no, it's going to work because of this, and then you're going to do this, and the price is this. But if you want to discuss it, we can make it lower, or you can pay in installments. But the other person, he just has to say, oh no, I pay 50. My price is 50,000. Okay. The more you are, the less you have to do. The less you are, the more you have to do. And unfortunately for Africans, through the three things that I've mentioned earlier, is us being pushed to the outskirts, the bad places. So it led to us believing that, number one, we don't deserve the good things of this life. And then number two, white people are better than us. Number three, we have to work twice as hard to get there. All of these things, when you compound them, it leads to you not being able to capitalize on the things that you are doing in this life. It leads to you subconsciously sabotaging the things you are doing. So back to the question, if you somehow, you got the good job over the white person, right? Because you believe that it's impossible. If you believe that that white person can do it better than you, that you don't deserve that situation, how on earth would you operate in a way in which you actually get the results that you truly want? If you don't believe that you can do it as good as someone else, or if you don't believe that you deserve the opportunity, then are you going to give your all? Probably not. Are you going to get the most out of it? Probably not. Are you even going to get the most out of yourself? Probably not, because at every dying moment or every living moment, you're going to be thinking, I'm not good enough for this. I don't deserve this. Now imagine trying to produce your best work thinking, I don't deserve this. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So number one reason, let me not even say number one, because I'm going to give like 20,000 reasons. I'll lose count of the tracking. So a reason why Africans are poorer than white people is because we have been convinced that we are not as good as white people. We have been convinced that we are not deserving of the good things. Oh, this business that's making 100,000 a month, nah, it's not for us. Like, that happens in the United States, it happens in the United Kingdom, Australia, Dubai even. Oh, it happens in Russia a lot, but in Africa, no. Right? And relax. I know a lot of you are probably thinking about politics. I've just thought about it now, but the sequence in which I'm explaining this is a perfect way to explain it. So the first thing, let me refer to my notes. Right? We have to work twice as hard. The second thing, it's not even the second thing. Let me stop saying, because I've probably said 8 things at this point. Now I'm saying the second thing. But anyways, one of the thoughts that comes from being in a place where you only see a certain group or certain demographic achieving, and that demographic doesn't look like you, they're not from where you're from, they don't have as much melanin as you, right? You start to believe that that type of success isn't meant for you, subconsciously. See, consciously you're never going to admit it, but subconsciously that's what you're thinking. And because that's what you're thinking subconsciously, that is what translates into the rest of your life. When you believe that that type of success isn't for you, anytime you go for something that is out of the realms of what you believe is okay for you, you will never be able to achieve it. And if you do achieve it, it won't be long lasting. That's why you see that regularly in Africa, niggas, best believe it, niggas always touch money. They always touch money at least once in their life. But the difference between ones that remain rich and ones that don't remain rich is that they can't maintain it. Or is whether you maintain it. The ones that touch the success and go down, they don't have the self-concept, the self-identity, the self-image to be able to believe that they deserve that level. So what happens is they achieve, and then it goes, oh, for some reason, oh, the government did this, the government did X, Y, and Z, whatever. The government is actually the last domino of this, truthfully speaking. People like to say, oh no, it's the government's fault, but all of these things lead to where the government is. So now, one thing you need to realize is all these things that I've said up until this point, we have to work twice as hard to get the same results as them. That type of success isn't for us. The pedestalization of white people, these are all things that happen to the black people in the nation. It's actually very hard. I actually used to be that way. In fact, do you know a very common thing for black boys in Africa is until about the age of 13, 14, you dream of having a white girlfriend. Why? Because white people are seen as better than black people, and you have subconsciously accepted it through certain things. Small things as seeing your dad change his accent when he's around white people. The code switch, right? White people don't code switch. And when white people code switch, it's called racism. Why? Because we think it's demeaning for them to switch to how we speak. That already indicates that we believe subconsciously that we're lower than them. Because let's say if a white person from Britain code switched when he was around a Russian person, they wouldn't think that is racism. Let's say they just didn't look alike, right? They wouldn't think that is racism. Oh, why are you code switching? Why are you changing the way you speak around me? It's like, oh, okay, they're being accommodating. But because this white person is now changing their accent to speak more in an African way, that's in a way in which you can understand, which is a normal thing. Because let's say if I go to America and I speak, I'll probably say things that I think they won't understand in, let's say, my normal accent in an Americanized way. So let's say if I'm like, water, everyone knows what water means, weather is whatever. But I'm going to use that as an example. Let's say I'm just chilling and I want water. I might say, can I have some water? So that you can actually understand me a bit more. And I don't see it as racism when I'm doing it to them. I just want them to understand what I'm saying. But when it's done to Africans, you're like, no, why are you changing your thing? Why? Because we view ourselves as less than them. It's only a problem when you view yourself as less than them. See, when you go to the Queen, when you go to Buckingham Palace, right? Well, the Queen's dead. So when you go to, it's not a funny thing. Let's say you go see the King. And normally I speak slang. So the standard sentence I can say in my day is like, I'm tongue grinding today, I'm too tired. I'm not gonna go to Buckingham Palace and speak like that. So that code switch, in and of itself, it's a sign of respect that, okay, I'm changing the way I'm speaking in front of this person. Why? And the only reason he doesn't see it as racism is because he acknowledges that he's not below me. He may think he's better than me, that's not true, but he, at the very least, acknowledges that he is not below me. So that's why it's not seen as racism. Whereas, if you were to come to Africa and be like, hello, and start speaking English in an African accent, of which there are 52 different African accents, we would start saying, oh, that's racist. That's racist. But anyways, there's a pedestalization of white people. What you also need to realize that comes from the pedestalization of white people viewing yourself as less than them is you empower them in your mind so much so that you disempower yourself. You suppress yourself. You suppress your latent potential, your latent abilities. Like I was saying, let's say you managed to get the good job. Let's say you managed to get in the business where it's like, oh, white people get in this business, but you are that nigga, the Negro in that business. And it's like, oh, you're suppressing yourself. You don't recognize that you're suppressing yourself. Consciously, you're thinking, oh, I've got this opportunity. I need to do this. I am so lucky to have this opportunity. But subconsciously, you're thinking, I do not deserve this. So what do? Sorry, my loom is opening. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea why my loom opened. But don't tell me. Okay, yeah, no, it didn't happen. Sorry. Sorry, I'm recording on my MacBook, as you can tell. So you start sabotaging what you were doing. I forgot what I was even saying because I got distracted. Forgive me for that. Forgive me for that. But anyways, oh yeah, the suppressing of yourself. You start suppressing yourself. You don't give your all, and it's subconscious. Have there ever been times, let's say when you're playing sport, this used to happen to me a lot. I used to play cricket. And my coaches always used to say that, dude, like your technique, you are one of the best in the country, but I never performed like one of the best. Why? Because I didn't believe I was one of the best. I didn't believe I deserved to get the results that other people got, even though I knew that I practiced just as much as them. It was just purely a self-image issue. So what would happen is during practice, when the pressure wasn't on, and like practice isn't really it's like not, it doesn't infringe on my self-image. If I do well in practice or whatever, I did well in practice, I would be running 100%. I would bowl because I used to play cricket. Bowl 100%. Now for some reason in the game, my 100%, what felt like 100%, was now 80%. Why? Because I was suppressing myself to align with the beliefs that I already had. Your beliefs are so powerful. See, one of the most amazing quotes that I heard last year is that you are so powerful that you can actually make yourself powerless. And that is exactly what has happened in Africa. We are so powerful as human beings, right? Not Africans, like, oh, Africans are more powerful than the rest of us. We're all the same. A nigga just has 1 million, so what? Right? My genetics are a bit different, so what? But anyways, we are so powerful that we have made ourselves powerless through the state of consciousness that we have chosen to keep. Because everything is a choice. You might have certain levels of hate that are brewing within you. And you're saying, like, oh, these white people, look at what they've done to us. But it's like, dude, no one can do anything to you unless you allow them to do it. No one can convince you of anything other than what you want to convince yourself of. You need to realize that you have always had the power to change. And there are many dead Africans who needed to hear this, that you have always had the power in your life. You have always had the power to alter your reality. But you allowed yourself to be convinced by people who don't look like you. And actually more so, people who look like you. Into the life that you're in right now, into the life that you died living. And that thing that I said, people who look like you convincing you, that's another thing. What you need to realize is that a state of consciousness is contagious. So essentially, you're gonna, due to the obvious things that are happening, you're gonna subconsciously believe that you are less than. You are going to subconsciously believe that you don't deserve those opportunities. And because a state of consciousness is contagious, all of the niggas around you, most of them, are going to have the same state of consciousness. So what humans do and what animals do is like we tend to like being similar to other people. And when you see someone is different from you, your immediate instinct is to be like, nah, calm back down. So what will happen is someone in Africa, they'll be like, I want to make money, I want to start this business. And then other Africans, people who look like them, are telling them, that's successism for us. It's not even the white people telling you that at that point. It's you, your own people are telling you that's successism for us. They pull you down. Or you think you can succeed if you're black, you have to work twice as hard. And even then, you may not get the opportunity. They pull you down again. Oh, that's successism for us. Good things don't happen here in Africa. Nothing is good here in Zim. Pull you down. Or if you want to make a good life, if you want to have good money, if you want to have a peaceful life, you have to move away. Now, you want to stay in the country. Pull you down. What started with white people oppressing us became black people oppressing themselves. See, I was reading As a Man Thinketh Today, and James Allen was essentially saying that people like to take sides. They like to say that the oppressor is bad. They like to say that the oppressed is bad, believe it or not. But one thing you need to realize is that polarity only exists on the physical plane when we observe it. Above the physical plane, everything is one. The only difference is this rate of vibration. So the oppressor and the oppressed are one. Both need to exist for things to happen. They're interacting at the same time. That's why when you see, let's say in relationships, you have an avoidant, you have an anxious, people like to see them as two different things, but they are the exact same thing with different rates of vibration. They just manifest it in a different way. So oppressor, oppressed, exact same thing. Right? So now people will look at the white people, they'll be like, oh, these are the oppressor, we are the oppressed. Not recognizing that if we adopt the state of consciousness that they want us to have, we are one with them. So you become one, you become your own oppressor. They don't even need to do it. They aren't even in Africa. These niggas that colonize us, most of them went back to their land. But still, we are suffering the effects from back then. Why? Because they altered our state of consciousness. We believe that we are different to the oppressor, but because we have accepted the state of consciousness that they want us to have, we have become one with them. Because we become one with them, we have become fused with that which they wanted us to experience. And whether they wanted us to experience it or not, or they just wanted to take our resources, who knows? I don't want to get into the ins and outs of this, because all it serves to do is to create division, to create internal hatred towards people, and internal hatred towards someone will lead to external conflict between the two. So that's why you'll find that the people who are the most passionate about racism experience the most racism. The freedom fighters are actually the ones who get looked up. And look, do I want you to become a freedom fighter? Go ahead and do whatever you want. But one thing I want you to realize is that just change your reality. I just want you to get to a place where you are happy with the life you're living. And to be happy with the life you're living, you don't need to become a freedom fighter. You don't need to be screaming on top of the mountain, shouting out about racism. You just need to change your life. You just need to change your state of consciousness. And once you do that, you will change your life. Right? Reality will naturally remold itself around your state of consciousness. And though it may have sounded selfish in the beginning, a state of consciousness is contagious. So the people around you are going to be like, They're going to get little bits of your state of consciousness and slowly become more like you. Your children are going to be similar to you. So by you doing what was best for you, you are actually doing what is best for the country. See, that's another topic I'm going to go on. We have been convinced that the route or the way in which we will get out of this is by being freedom fighters. No, the way in which we'll get out of this is by altering our state of consciousness. Yes, is freedom fighting an effect of altering your state of consciousness? Yes, because you realize that, nigga, the hell, we don't deserve this. But without an altered state of consciousness, you now lead, or you sentence yourself to experiencing the same thing. It may be in a different form, but you'll experience the same thing, even if you're a freedom fighter. In fact, you're going to experience more of it. It's crazy. And now, I explained all of this to say that the average African believes that they don't deserve good, believes that they can't be successful where they're at. So if you can't be successful where you're at and you want to stay where you're at, or you don't have access to move, like how are you ever going to be successful? Because that's what you believe, right? People say that believing, or to believe, you have to see. But you're only going to see something once you believe it. Seeing is believing. No, believing is seeing. Once you believe something, you'll begin to see it. So yeah, you believe you can't make money in your country. So all you're going to see is that you can't make money in your country. You are going to believe that white people are better than you. So all you're going to see is that white people are better than you. You believe that those things, they're not good for you. I mean, not good for you, but they're not for you. You don't deserve the luxuries of life. You don't deserve the finer things that God has given us all access to. So you're not going to see anyone who looks like you experiencing that. And the funny thing is, you're going to see people that look exactly like you experiencing all the things that you can't have. But because you believe it, because you believe that you don't deserve those things, you're not going to see that there actually are people who deserve those things. You're going to say corruption. And now here's where corruption is. I mean, here's where corruption comes in, right? Africans, right? We look at the dictators. It is no secret. Like, African leaders are an interesting bunch, to say the least. People look at our leaders and they say that they're the problem, that they have created these environments where things are terrible, where countries just, nothing is working. They've taken all the money. They have done all of these things. They've just ruined the country. Corruption at its finest. The only people who are getting jobs are the friends of these politicians, right? And we blame them. We say that they're the cause of the reality. Now, if you siphon off the cause of your reality to someone else, you will never be able to change it. Because if you don't have access to the cause, because look, you can't change what a politician is doing. You actually can't. So if you say that is the cause, you will never be able to change your life, because you're not able to change the cause. If you can't change the cause, you're not going to be able to change the effect. People will say that, oh, the politicians are the reason why my life is a weight is because they've made these laws, they've made this environment. Now, you are actively trying to change your life, but you have attributed the cause to the politicians. So how are you ever going to change anything if you don't have access to the cause? You are now going to change effects by trying to change an effect. You're going to now try to change the things you do day by day, but you have decided that those things aren't the cause of what's going on in your life. No, as this nigga, this politician, this dictator. That's what happens. And so yeah, people like to blame politicians, but in actuality, like, this is going to be a hot take, and it'll probably be the most controversial part of this video, but the politicians and us were one. And I know that sounds crazy, especially growing up in Africa. You've seen the corruption, the looting. But one thing that people need to realize, and one thing I've realized the older I've gotten, is like, if some of my friends were politicians, they would be just as corrupt as the niggas who are saying, oh, these people are evil. Small things, like, let's say you're at a roadblock, you pay the police officer because you don't want to go. Like, most people in Zim, you don't get in trouble. You just pay off the officer who finds out what you did. And they don't realize that and now doing corrupt things when you're like high up, it's the exact same thing. It's the same mechanism. The only reason why you think it's different is because your perception has been altered dependent on the situation. It's the same thing, paying that officer $5 to get you off your traffic violation, and paying the judge $50K to get your son off of the case, or for him to say that your son is not guilty. It's the exact same thing. The only difference, rate of vibration. The only difference, your perception. You say, oh no, this is small and this is big. Not knowing that small makes big. They cannot be big without small, because small or big is made out of small. So it's one and of the same thing. It just compounds. So me saying that we are one with politicians, it may sound like something absolutely diabolical to you. But if you truly self-introspect, you analyze the people around you or the people you know, you realize that you know better than them. The second thing I want you to realize is that the politician is just like you. Because you are one, they have the same thoughts as you. They have the same beliefs. They have all the same limiting beliefs. Oh, success isn't for me. It's not for people who look like me. Black people need to work twice as hard to get the things that they want. Oh, richness, luxury, designer, that's for white people. They have the same beliefs as you. They have the same state of consciousness as you. They are operating from a position of lack, a position of scarcity. Now, they get into power, find themselves through the hard work, somehow in power. Now, what do you think a person who has experienced scarcity, who doesn't believe that black people can see, who doesn't believe that they can do it in the same way, who believes that they need to work twice as hard to get the same result, what do you think that type of person will do? That person with that state of consciousness will do when they're now in a situation where they have access to all the country's funds? where they have access to, like, by making a phone call, they can literally change things for their life. If you believe that there's no other way for you to succeed, that there's no money in the country, and now suddenly all that money is in there in front of you and you have access to it, what do you think you're going to do? The person who has gone 10 days without drinking water, when they have water, they're going to take more than they need. Of course, you can't go 10 days without water, you're going to die. But the point is, a person who's gone 10 days without water, when they encounter water, they probably only really need 4 liters of water. But they've been emotionally traumatized from that experience of not having more, from believing that they're not meant for that success, that it's not possible for them. That now, let's say when they have that water, or let's say, no, I said success, but they've been traumatized from that experience of not having water, that now when 2 million liters of water is in front of them, and they actually only need 3 liters of water, they take 100,000 liters. And we see it as like, oh, this is greed, this is just corruption. But it's like, to them, what else are they supposed to do? They went through this traumatic experience, the same one that you were going through day in, day out. And now they have access to everything. And you want them to just be like, oh no, I only need 3 liters. No, they're going to take it because subconsciously they believe that these things are going to last. If you believe that, if someone believed that the wealth was long lasting, that even though they won't be in a certain position in a few years, they're still going to be able to make money, do you think they'll be doing those things? No. So I'm not saying this for people to have sympathy for what's going on, but to just recognize that you're no better than them, and they're human beings, quite frankly. And the moment you stop thinking, oh, look at this, the moment you can actually improve your life. But the point I'm making is, people look at politicians and they think that they're at the top of the food chain. They are the main reason why things are like this, forgetting that politicians were once in the position that we were in. And if they weren't, they were once affected by the same state of consciousness that we have. And now that their physical reality has changed, they're now in charge of all this wealth, doesn't mean that all of the past traumas, all of the past compounding of their state of consciousness is going to suddenly disappear. No, it remains the same. So essentially, what we see on a political level is just the manifestation of, let's say, the collective African state of consciousness now, in that situation where you have access to all that money. So politicians aren't the problem, but we have believed that they're the problem. So all of these things, right, I know it may be hard for you to apply this to your business, but I want you to think, like, in your life right now, you are both the colonizer and the colonized. You have convinced yourself, you have allowed yourself to believe certain things, whether it was out of survival, whether it's because it's what you believed was best, what you believed was true, but you have convinced yourself of certain things. You have colonized yourself, and now you're also the colonized. And that's how you can just apply these principles to your life. You may have told yourself that, oh, these things, they're not for people like me. For some reason, I don't succeed. It always just doesn't work out when I try. I don't know what you've told yourself. I don't know what you continue to tell yourself, but there are aspects in which you have colonized yourself, and you like to blame other people. You like to attribute cause to some externality, when cause is always internal. Always internal. Whether it's your business, whether you've been led to believe that, oh, I'm black, I can't make this amount of money. Whether you've been led to believe that, oh, I don't have the latest equipment, so how could I possibly compete with these guys? How could I possibly make as much as these guys make? I don't know what it is in your life. I'm not going to go in depth as to what it can be, because this video is going to end up being 2 hours long. Anyways, to sum up everything that I've said up until this point, the average African has a state of consciousness that aligns more with their struggling than it does with their desired prosperity. If your state of consciousness aligned with your desired prosperity, you would experience desired prosperity. That's why you see certain people, if you grow up or if you're at a certain age, you will realize that, you know what, you grow up with certain people that just think different. And even though at that time their life didn't reflect the way they thought, over 10 years, whatever, 2 months even, their life began to change. And now looking back, you're like, this person's life really reflects that the way they thought, even though it didn't appear it at a time. So the reason why Africans are poorer is because our states of consciousness align with our struggling. And now thinking logically, if we are to become not poorer than everyone else, we need to get to a position where our states of consciousness align with our prosperity. So, if you desire to be richer, wealthier, more abundant, you need to align your state of consciousness to that. The reason being is because action without mental alignment will always lead to an up and a down. It will always lead to unsustained results. And people intrinsically know this, or you may not intrinsically know it, but you are going to know it after explaining this to you. Have you ever at times, New Year's rolls around, and you're like, let's do some New Year's resolutions. So you write down your New Year's resolutions. I'm going to go to the gym 6 times a week. I'm going to work on my business 3 hours a day. Deep work block. I'm going to totally transform my life. I'm going to treat the people in my life better. I'm going to love my wife, take her out on dates every week, right? You tell yourself all those things. And you start off January 1, amazing. January 2, amazing. January 3, good. January 4, okay. January 6th or 5th, nothing happened. January 6th, can I count? Did I say 6? Whatever. As the days go on, you just start waning off. The reason why that happens is because you are trying to change an effect by changing an effect. See, what happens on the physical plane is simply an effect to the cause on the mental plane. So, looking at all of this, the reason why you go to the gym the reason why one goes to the gym 6 times a week is because mentally they're the type of person that goes to the gym 6 times a week. The reason why someone treats their wife nicely is because mentally they love their wife and they want to show their love for them. You can't treat your wife better than you actually feel about her. Right? I'm visualizing a ring on this finger. God, if you're listening to me. Nigga. Anyways. James Allen said, you cannot go somewhere within and stand still without. However, we are trying to go somewhere without while standing still within. As within, as without, as without, as within. Your reality is a reflection to the life that you are living. James Allen also said that people are satisfied with themselves but dissatisfied with their lives. But what you need to realize is that you and your life, you are one. You cannot be satisfied with yourself and dissatisfied with your life, because it's like me being satisfied with water but being dissatisfied with water. It's like dude, be for real, right? But the point I'm making is action without mental alignment leads to burnout, it leads to mysterious fails, and essentially a vicious cycle of defeat. It will lead to you saying, oh, Africans just don't succeed. Why? Because you haven't changed your alignment mentally to align with that which you want. You still believe that Africans don't do well. You still believe that good things don't happen in Africa. You still believe that you can't make money in your country. And because you believe those things, anything that you do externally to try overpower that will not work. What you are going to see is a cycle where you try your hardest, where you work twice as hard as the people who you know you're better than to get the same results as them. But even though you work twice as hard, you don't get the same results as them. And it's like, damn. And what happens is now you feel emotional because you put in all that work. Feel an emotional reaction, and that emotional reaction further programs your subconscious mind. Why? Because as I said earlier, emotion is the true language of your subconscious mind. If you aren't speaking emotion, your subconscious mind isn't listening. A nigga is spitting. So what you need to understand is a change in state of consciousness must precede a physical change. As an African, you are not going to become richer by trying to be richer physically. Because the truth is, all Africans try to be richer. Have you seen how hard these niggas work? Have you seen how hard us niggas work? And yet, look at the lives we're living. Niggas will be slaving away. In fact, Africans are some of the most educated people I know. Look at Zimbabwe. Our literacy rate is very high, higher than some of the European countries, and yet all those physical attempts without a mental shift will lead to the same mental things happening, or to the same manifestation in your physical reality happening. So a state of consciousness must always precede the physical change. And now the reason why I know this is because you look at certain countries, right? Look at China, you look at Singapore, countries that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, they were in the absolute pits, considered third world countries. And now Singapore is the upcoming banking capital of the world. China is arguably the strongest country in the world, arguably. Right? And nothing changed. They didn't suddenly get more resources. They didn't suddenly find this well of gold in their land. No, they changed their state of consciousness. They changed the beliefs that they had about themselves, what they could achieve, and all that jazz. And it led to their physical realities changing. It led to their circumstances changing. But first, what changed is their state of consciousness. And the reason why you know this is because they had a plan. China had a 150-year plan. If they didn't believe that they could get there, if there wasn't a change of their state of consciousness, they wouldn't have been able to make that plan and to carry it forward and for that plan to actually manifest in reality. See, one thing I want you to recognize, and I've said this earlier, but you as an individual are actually more important than the collective. The reason why I say this is because you are the building block of the collective. Without the individual, there is no collective. That means for you, you need to stop focusing on what's going on. You need to stop focusing about the injustice. All Africans are poorer than this, and change your life. Change your state of consciousness. Because I promise you, if I'm poor, and I'm telling you, Africans are poor, and this is the reason, no one's going to care. And no one will care to listen to you. But if you have changed your life, you have become the example of that which you want other people to become, or to show them that that's possible, you are actually going to be of more impact to the world. See, you probably watch me because you want to remove your internal blocks that have been costing you revenue and performance, and finally get to the place where you know you belong. That's what you should do. You need to think to yourself, what would make my life better? And align yourself to that. And see, now you may be asking, how do I align myself? How do I alter my state of consciousness? Forgive me for doing this to you, but that is exactly what I talk about on this channel. Every other video addresses that topic, and in detail. Now, if you want to find out, I have a bunch of other videos. Subscribe, and yeah. And anyways, to end off this video, if you're still here, I help 5-figure entrepreneurs and athletes remove mental I help 5-figure entrepreneurs and athletes remove mental blocks that have been limiting their revenue and performance, and help them finally get to the place in which they want to be. And this typically happens in a few weeks. Right? So if you're at the stage where you know that you have more in your business and you're just not getting it out for some weird reason, click the first link in the description. It's going to take you to a Google form. It'll allow you to just fill out an application, and you're going to be able to talk to me. Yeah, we can see the type of work that we can do together. But with all that being said, we're done.